Oh hi, it's your old buddy Zoo here, and we've got the latest release from Anbernic, the 34XXSP. Now this takes the 3.4-inch screen from the 34XX, and it puts it in the form factor of the 35XXSP. I loved both of these. So will I love the 34XXSP? Well, I mean, the odds are yes, but let's do our first impressions and find out together. Quick logistical note though, I'm the first video guy on our team to get this, so I'm going to do like a first impressions on the look, the form factor, the overall feel of the thing, that sort of stuff. We'll probably have a live stream when Stubbs gets his, maybe a deeper dive review, maybe he'll compare it to the Miyoo Mini Flip. And of course, we'll do some custom firmware videos on here as they become available. So without further ado, let's open this thing up and play around with the 34XXSP. All right, what is in the box? Well, handheld, a screen protector, which is kind of superfluous, a manual, wipes, a power cable, and of course, the actual handheld. Get out of there. Okay. Looks like we got the black model, which is super cool. Oh, that looks neat. Get all this other crap out of the way. Here we are compared to the 35XXSP, and right off the bat, this one seems bigger. The 35XXSP is a little bit taller. I guess it makes sense. This is a 3.5-inch screen, 3.4-inch screen. But yeah, they're roughly the same size here. Heck, let's go find my Game Boy SP and compare that. It's kind of ironic that my Game Boy Advance SP I got from Japan is the same color as the 34XXSP. So let's compare these real quick. Ooh. Now this has a satisfying click. And the hinge on this, it's very, very smooth. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But overall size-wise and setup, you'll notice here, this is pretty much the same exact hinge design. Shoulder buttons are basically the same, except you have L2 and R2 on here, and you have your main USB-C/OTG cable and HDMI out instead of your charging and your link cables. On the back side here, you can see that it has a 3300 milliamp hour battery, but it doesn't have a specialized compartment. If you want to get the battery out, you're going to have to take these screws out. You don't just take out one, you got to take out all four. But otherwise, very, very similar. And oh, by the way, headphone jack on the bottom. I like that. You have your volume on the side and your SD card 1 over here. And then you have your SD card 2 and your power and your reset button. You open this up, you can see there's a magnet in here, and it tells the sensor that, hey, the screen's closed, puts it in sleep mode. It also helps to keep it closed. It's not super tough, like you can kind of feel it, but it's enough to just kind of help you secure it. You'll see here, you have your D-pad, your face buttons. Oh God, that noise. First thing you gotta do is turn that noise off. Ugh, who even likes that? Put this into sleep mode so I can show you the buttons. You have your menu button. That's a little bit clicky. Got your D-pad, face buttons, and these sticks. They're clickable. You have your start and select down here, and your shoulder buttons. They're all a little clicky. Not too bad. They're not too mushy. They're not too clicky. Dare I say it? They're just right? Maybe? Huh? And again, your volume and your power on the side here. Oh, by the way, this came with a case, and it's like a combination. Wait, where are they at? It's very clearly a combination of the case for the 34XX and the 35XXSP, which is appropriate because this is like the love child of the 34XX and the 35XXSP. Regardless, this case is stupid, and I love it. I want to strap this to my belt like a 65-year-old with a cell phone holster. I feel the urge to do that. I just had a birthday, so maybe it's inevitable, maybe it's part of aging, but I think it's just because this little case is so awesome. Look at that little clasp. And, oh, by the way, you got this little pocket on the front if you want to throw an SD card in there. Maybe even your USB-C cord will fit in there. Tuck that in there. Come on now, close. There you go. You put your power cord in there and an SD card. Easy peasy. It also has these little D rings on the side, so you can make this into a super adorable Game Boy Advance purse. You know, like if you're a crazy person. So the hinge on this thing is probably the best I've seen so far on a clamshell. It is super, super smooth. You barely even notice it. And it feels super, super sturdy. Let's do the stubs test. I mean, it's clicking a little bit, but it's not flopping around as I flop around like a lunatic. It's fighting back a little bit. It's sturdy. I like that. It also doesn't have any noticeable gaps or kinks. And again, I think this is a direct copy of the Game Boy Advance SP design. It also goes all the way back, and it has this intermediate where it kind of stays where you want it. And you can also just finesse it a little bit. Oh, maybe 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 45. Maybe if you're crazy, you want to play it at 45 the other way. But it's a very, very sturdy, very good hinge. And obviously, you can see their inspiration / copying from the original Game Boy Advance SP. Honestly, though, this entire device is a shot across the bow of Miyoo. And the hinge, I think, is an absolute kill shot. I can't tell for sure it'll hold up. You know, time will tell. But my 35XX SPs are still fine a year in. And this thing just, it feels way sturdier than even those. Where did I put mine? You can even see on here, like it's a very, very similar design. This one seems like it's a little bulkier. And you see there's more of a gap on this part of the hinge than this. It's kind of hard to even get your fingernail in there versus I can see air through there. It's definitely an improved version of the XXSP. We'll go back to compare some more, but suffice to say, the hinge on this feels really, really sturdy. They say it has a metal alloy rod in here, and between that providing stability and the magnets making sure it closes securely, I mean, it just feels sturdy as all hell. Now, one of the first things everyone was mad about when the first teasers on this dropped was this weird Fivehead. Stay there. Honestly, it looks bad in pictures, it looks bad in renders, but it's not really a big deal in person, especially in this colorway. It's kind of like lightly chamfered up. It draws your eyes away from the fact you got this big thing on top. It's really not that noticeable in person. And I don't know if that comes across on video or not, but it's just not as noticeable as I thought it would be. It's made this way, ostensibly, so the Fivehead here is what bumps up against the sticks instead of the screen. If that's the case, and I think it is, it'll probably add to the overall lifetime of the device, so I can deal with that kind of compromise if it means the screen isn't going to get scuffed or broken. Speaking of the screen, this has the same screen as the 34XX with all of the same benefits. Now, if you didn't watch any of our coverage on the 34XX, shame on you, but here is a quick primer. This screen has a size of 720 by 480p, which is a 3:2 ratio. That means you can play your Game Boy Advance games on here at 3x native resolution at pixel perfect integer scaling. Throw some LCD 3x shaders on here and you are set. Game Boy Advance on here looks amazing just like it did on the 34XX. It might actually play better than the 34XX since they backed away from this lore accurate D-pad that was on the 34XX. And they went with something that is very, very similar to the 35XX SP. It's just a hair skinnier and a hair longer. Now the D-pad on here, if you rock it hard enough, you can get false inputs. But if you have it here like wiggling like you might just in a normal situation, you can see that I really have to rock one side or the other to get it to move. So you're not going to get a ton of false inputs. It's not the most hyper-precise D-pad in the entire world, but it's also not loose and sloppy like some of these are. Besides the D-pad, this also has excellent face buttons and triggers. I'm not sure if they're the same as the V2 of the 35XXSP. Maybe we'll do a teardown in the deep dive review, but they feel good. I think it all feels ergonomic because you've got everything where you can reach it. You're not stretching your thumbs to get anywhere. Although the sticks are a little bit low. And these sticks are also kind of smallish. They actually, here's my 557. The sticks are very, very similar to the 557 in size. Now the caps are different, but they're about the same size. Again, we might want to dig into this in a subsequent video and see how similar they are on the inside. It would be hilarious if these were like super high-end sticks they threw in there just as an FU to Miyoo. The sticks also have a pretty decent range of motion here, and they're pretty deep in these little divots so you can close the device and they don't poke through the screen. It's a critical design choice by our old friend Max Zhao at Anbernic. You're not jamming sticks through the screen. And oh, by the way, these sticks were automatically mapped for D-pad action in all these games this thing shipped with. Now, the sticks on here aren't essential, especially for me since I want to use this as a Game Boy Advance machine, but they do come into play for stuff like PS1 or N64 on here, maybe even some PSP if you want. I personally don't need sticks on this thing, but again, it just seems like a shot across the bow at Miyoo just to throw sticks on here just because the Miyoo Flip had them. And I kind of respect that level of pettiness. You can see here for N64, stick's actually pretty responsive. Whee! That's not bad. Whoa! Drive right into the side of a rock, dummy. Whee! Now, as we mentioned before, this is a 3300 milliamp hour battery, which should get you between 5 to 6 hours of gameplay. That's pretty standard for the XX line, and I have no issues with it. It's actually the same exact size battery as we saw here in the 35XX It might have been nicer to get a slightly bigger battery, maybe get another hour or two out of this, but I tell you what, 5 to 6 hours isn't anything to look down on for this size handheld, especially since it's smaller, just slightly smaller than the 35XX and has the same battery. Let's talk about power. This is rocking the tried and true and venerable at this point H700 chip. That means you're going to max out at some N64. We got Wave Race going on here. You'll max out at some Dreamcast and some PSP. If you're really curious, we got a bunch of videos with a lot of gameplay footage, but that's basically where you max out. I personally think it's pretty obvious this is designed as a Game Boy Advance machine, and this chip can handle Game Boy Advance and sweet Game Boy Advance shaders all day long. If you do want to move on to N64 or PSP, it can handle a fair amount, and then these sticks will be handy. And one other thing about using the tried and true H700 chip is that we have a ton of custom firmware options already available, and heck, some of them work right now. Let's try that out. So I have here muOS that I literally just took out of my 34XX. I'm going to plug that in here, and then we're going to slot the second card in external TF2. And we're going to turn this on, and if everything goes well, muOS is just going to turn on. Yep. It just works. And so yeah, I mean, right out of the box, muOS boots, and it works, it plays. It even knows my history. It knows I was watching This Old House when I did a video. Heck, it even found my old Wi-Fi credentials and automatically logged me in. Pretty cool. Let's see if we can get TV running. That works even better than I thought it would. That's amazing. Now what doesn't work, the sticks, there's no support for them. And sleep mode, when you close the screen, it does nothing because it doesn't realize that this 3.4-inch screen also has a hinge. But otherwise, it works. The newly 34XX build also apparently works according to our writers. So just assume you'll have basic support with some of these custom firmwares. If there is a 34XX specific custom firmware, just assume it'll work on here, but like the hinge isn't going to be recognized, and these sticks won't work. But otherwise, you'll have basic support, and you'll have more improvements to come. I think all the devs need to do is combine the screen settings from the 34XX, the magnetic closure from the 35XXSP, and then the stick coating from the 40XXH or the 35XXH. It's not an absolute cakewalk, but no one has to reinvent the wheel either. Keep in mind though, as we saw, stock on these things is no slouch. It improves a little bit each time, and besides that button noise everyone at Anbernic loves, and I hate, oh god I hate it, but besides that, there's no real glaring issues with stock. I have given these to people with stock, and they make their way through fine. So, good job Anbernic. So let's talk about price and availability. This thing is $60 for the first week, so you'll have like 3 or 4 more days to get that price by the time this video goes live. And then the price goes to $67 after. And that's still a pretty decent deal. The tariff stuff seems to be calming down a little bit, And Anbernic has these in US shops as well, so you shouldn't have any real sticker shock, hopefully. At either price, you are getting a really solid unit. If you don't have a 35XX SP or a 34XX, and you like this form factor, I'd say get one. Otherwise, you can always wait for a sale, especially since shipping on these is, for me at least, when I checked, I think the minimum shipping was $19. That's not great. Kind of offsets that early bird special. Well, Gary, this first impressions video is getting a little long in the tooth, so I guess it's time for what did we learn? And we learned that the 34XXSP is the love child of the 34XX and the 35XXSP, and that's a good thing. Mwah. Anbernic has taken the best of both of these devices and molded them into one really solid Game Boy Advance machine. It's also clearly a challenge against the Miyoo Flip. I don't have one, but I know like a half dozen or so people who do, and who have also broken the hinge on theirs. I mean, hell, I know a couple people who've broken it live on camera. It's not a sturdy device. On the other hand, the 34XXSP here has one of the sturdiest hinges I've ever seen on a handheld, Nintendo included. Now, time will certainly tell, and who knows if there are weird issues we haven't discovered yet, but this thing feels and sounds and seems better than the 35XXSP, and that was already really, really good. My green one here, I've had it for almost a year, and it's really, there's no issues with the hinge that I can see. There's no cracks. There's a little bit of a gap here, but that kit was like that when I got it. And I guess what I'm saying is, if they can improve on the 35XXSP, which is already a heck of a device with a heck of a hinge, they might have themselves a heck of a winner, huh? I guess the real question with this is, should you buy it? Well, if you don't already have a 34XX or a 35XXSP, and you have any nostalgia for the Game Boy Advance SP in any way, I would consider it. I would seriously consider it. This thing feels good in the hands. It's got a 3x integer scale screen for Game Boy Advance, and it's a clamshell, which is always cool. Now, if you already have a 35XXSP or a 34XX, I'd say maybe hold off unless you're a Game Boy Advance fanatic, or you have some sort of mental illness where you have to buy one of every one of these. Gotta collect them all. Pokemon. Now this thing is cool, and I have no serious issues besides Anbernic not using those sweet transparent colors from the 35XXSP. I mean, come on, it was right there. Look at this. That's a beautiful transparent green, and you went with black. Although I guess it makes sense for me because I have a black Game Boy Advance SP. But man, you had so many transparent options. But all right, settle down, Zoo. Settle down. I guess my point is, this isn't groundbreaking. It's an iterative enhancement. Like, it's good, it's better than its predecessors, but it's not like the next step in handheld evolution. If you are vacillating, make sure to stay tuned to Retro Handhelds because we're going to have a ton of coverage coming soon. Stubbs is going to do a live stream, I think. Someone else, maybe him, maybe me, will do a deep dive with a teardown. We're probably going to make videos when custom firmware drops for this. The whole 9 yards. And hey, if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Well, I better turn the camera off so I can get busy editing, so I guess I'll say so long, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.